All right, it looks like we are recording, so fantastic. Um, Welcome to today's little workshop and information session about NISO. I'm really happy to be here with the ARC. And let's just go ahead and jump right on in. My name is Michael Russell. I work in the National International Scholarships Office, and we coordinate 14 scholarships for Purdue students to apply to. And there are just a couple of things that I kind of want to like demystify, right? Like, what is the purpose of our office? What do we do? So whenever individuals hear the word scholarship, oftentimes they think about money, right? And so, which is true. A lot of the scholarships that we coordinate have endowments and sums of money to give to students. But the main purpose is to provide students with life-changing opportunities and experiences. So after today's PowerPoint video, I'm gonna send this to y'all so you can post it with the video. And all of my hyperlinks should still work. They did last night. So these are videos of previous scholars of these different scholarships talking about the benefits. The scholarships are often wanting to further a vision of an organization that funds the scholarship or of a person, right? So they're looking for individuals who are environmentalists, or they're looking for individuals who are leading in human rights or are actively working towards something, right? So they're either looking for the person's vision and the foundation is giving money for that individual, or their vision or what they're working on fits into the framework of the foundation and they want to get more people like them together, right? So the scholarships that we coordinate have a lot of different funding mechanisms, and we'll kind of talk a little bit more about them in a little bit. But here, right here is the website for the major scholarships the NISO office coordinates. These are the big 14 that we work with. I'm going to run through them very quickly, just giving like little hints, right? Little just like puffs of information about them. So the astronaut, where's my cursor? Pointer options, pin. So the astronaut scholarship and the Goldwater scholarship, these two both are looking to keep the United States at the forefront of innovation and technology. So they are really looking for students who are excelling in their coursework and conducting some sort of research and want to have research careers. Born is for students who are wanting to study something related to the social sciences, right? So their goal is to fund graduate school for people who typically do not receive funding for their graduate studies, right? So art historians, some of the social sciences. Okay, so Born is looking for students to study a critical need language. There are 140 different language families that Born will support. So if you really want to go and learn something like Japanese, Chinese, Swahili, Russian, Mongolian, there's tons of languages on this list and language families, and the US government will send students, US citizens abroad to go learn those languages. We're gonna skip Churchill for just a second. Fulbright and Gilman are both looking to send students abroad as well. So if you're receiving a Pell Grant, Gilman will fund up to $5,000 for you to study abroad. Fulbright will fund 1 year after you've graduated to study in another country. And then we're gonna do the big collection, right? So Churchill, Marshall Mitchell Rhodes, and Truman, all of these scholarships come together and they're really looking at how are you trying to make the world a better place, right? What is it in the everyday existence that needs more awareness, right? How are you trying to contribute to bettering the lives of others? And so each one has slightly different flavors. So Churchill is in STEM, right? How is your research going to change the lives of others and make the world a better place through your research and through your sciences? Marshall is in a UK context. So what is the unique relationship between the United States and the United Kingdom? Marshall is in an Irish context, so the unique relationship between Ireland and the United States. How are those two nations experiencing some sort of problem, and how is the United States experiencing the same thing, and what can we learn from each other? Rhodes is they're looking for people who are fighting the world's fight, right? So what is the problem that you're working on and contributing to help alleviate problems that are across the globe? So they are looking to seed scholars from every nation every year, or geographic regions of Earth. Okay, and then Truman is in a United States context, right? How can we help provide a better experience for US citizens, particularly underserved communities. Udall is strictly from an environmental perspective, right? So how are you going to be the next Lorax, right? How are you fighting the world's fight for the planet? And then Schwartzman also gets tied into this one as well. And it's in a Chinese context, right? So how does China fit into the global market, not only the economy, but as a world power and a growing nation? So how do, and so it's a one-year global affairs degree from Tsinghua University. So that was like a really quick snippet, right? That's like 4 minutes. I could go on for hours about all of these things, but we just need to kind of move on. So here is, let me hide my pointer. Go away. Okay, so here is the general breakdown of the scholarships our office coordinates. We have the general undergraduate funding. So these will fund you while you're at Purdue. These will fund you to go abroad and get international experiences. These will be after you've graduated, different kinds of programs. And then here are the graduate degrees that our office coordinates. So a lot of these require US citizenship, but Gates, Rhodes, and Schwartzman are open to all nations. And you don't have to have US citizenship to apply for those. Later in the talk, I will definitely be talking about other locations on our website for more programs for international students as well. So whenever we're talking about scholarships, right, a lot of times you're going to be writing essays. Or you're going to have to be putting something together to show the three-dimensional you on paper, which is really restrictive, right? Because you only have like 2 pages, maybe 3 pages to talk about all the good that you've ever done, all the great things that you're working on, right? So whenever you're writing your essays or writing your applications, you really want to focus on the impact that you've had, right? They want evidence of your ability to enact change in some capacity, right? So a lot of students, whenever they're writing these kinds of things, often talk about like, oh, I grew club membership by 300%. You know, I tripled the number of people at this student organization. And the foundation looks at that and they're like, okay, but what did you do? Right? So it's great that you have more people, but did you do educational events? Were you able to go and clean up the Wabash? Like, how did you exactly use that kind of, what actually happened? They really are looking for how are you leading among people in your field, but also across disciplines, right? So as you're getting closer and as we keep digging deeper and deeper into the information knowledge base that exists on Earth, you have to, more and more cross-disciplinary kinds of activities have to happen, right? Okay, so, and then the next thing is, so you did some good, right? What is the good that you did, and will it be sustainable after you leave, right? So after you walk away from Purdue University, is whatever you've been working on just gonna crumble up and shrivel away? Or is it going to continue to last year after year and have like perpetual good or perpetual change happening? So like having like some sort of food bank or establishing something and making it systemized at the university level or in the community. And the big thing is leadership looks different across everybody, right? So Let's just do like a little brain activity, right? So whenever you're applying for these kinds of things, you want to really know your audience, right? And so what are they going to see as leadership? How are they going to perceive what will be impressive to them, right? So a group of scientists conducting research in a lab, they're going to see stuff completely differently than social justice activists, right? So researchers in a lab are going to want papers, they're going to want efficiency, they're going to want to know what compound did you make, they're going to want to know all of that kinds of stuff, right? How did you make connections in two different sciences, like biology and chemistry? How did you make connections between those things or whatever? But social justice, they're really going to want to see like, okay, so you can mobilize people, right? You understand and you can advocate for people in a way that's not like prescriptive, right? And being able to actually share the mic and all those other kinds of things. So as you go through each one of these, they're all looking for very different things. And you really want to know, what does your audience want to see? Right? So whenever you're writing your application or you're trying to show that you're trying to show your three-dimensional self on 2 pages, you really want to focus on what do they care about, right? And it's not to say that those other things aren't valid or that those aren't real experiences and that they impacted you, but you only have 2 pages to tell them why you fit in with the group that they're trying to fund, right? And that your mission is there. So one of my students applied for 4 different scholarships that our office coordinates over the course of her time at Purdue. And if you read her documents if I like took out her name, she would read as completely different people, right? Because her interests were she had so many different experiences while she was here, but she targeted exactly what did those foundations want to know about her existence at Purdue, that almost nothing kind of bled over overlapped in her applications. And so Purdue students always have so much to talk about that we really want to make sure that you're highlighting exactly what that foundation is going to care about. Or what that foundation is seeking to award, right? They care about a lot of stuff, but their target is like the environment or whatever. So another little brain activity, right? So let's go ahead and start working backwards, right? So let's identify someone who is in your realm of education, right? So what would a leader in that field look like? So in 5-10 years, where do you want to be? What kind of job do you want to have? What kind of impact do you want to have in the world? And what would a leader doing that, what would they be doing, right? What kinds of skills would that individual have? How would they communicate with others? What lasting impact would they leave, right? So let's go ahead and start building up that kind of image of who do you want to be basically in 10-15 years, right? What kind of impacts are you wanting to have, right? So then you can start identifying, okay, here are all the different things that I want to do. So you have that, and now you can start identifying where are you now and what are the baby steps to get you to that spot, right? How can you start taking initiative while you're at Purdue University to start bridging the gap? And that's where we start talking about trajectory, right? Which is, historically referred to like in physics, right? The path of a moving object, right? And there's all these vectors and all these forces pushing and pulling you to do something, right? And that is the exact same thing as your educational course, right? So as you're moving through Purdue University, there are all these things that are impacting you, right? There is your coursework, your study abroad, your student organizations, different talks, your mentors, right? Sometimes you identify something that you really, really like, right? So you're gonna move a little bit closer to it. And sometimes you're just like, you know what? I don't want to deal with people, right? I don't want to be in medicine, right? I want to be a vet. You know what I mean? Like I like the biology stuff, but I just don't want to deal with people in HIPAA, right? I'm done. So like, let's move more over there. So it's okay to have a focus, right? Whenever you're really looking out there and you're like, I want to be in this general direction, right? But I don't want you to have blinders on, right? Where you're just ignoring everything else that's awesome happening at Purdue, and you're just like, I'm gonna be a doctor, this is exactly what I'm gonna do, right? Really take those off and just like absorb all of the cool things that are happening around you, because you might like something more, or you might realize, oh, actually, like in four semesters, I'm gonna have to take this course, and I just don't wanna deal with people's blood. I don't want to do it, right? And that's like a big red flag if you don't want to be a doctor, you know what I mean? Or whatever it is. So just kind of thinking about tracking out your future plans, how are you moving through university, and being really selective of where are you spending your time and spending your energy. So we kind of talked about this a little bit. So whenever you apply to something, you really want to make sure that you are making a pattern, right? So all of the different pieces of your garment are stitching together really nicely. So you want to make sure that the different, like your resume and your cover letter and your personal statement, you want to make sure that all these pieces really have a thread connecting them, right? You really want to make sure that it's not like you have this document that reads completely different than this document that reads completely different from this one, right? You want to make sure that all of them are talking to each other and referencing. So the things that you should be doing now, right? Seek mentorship in your field, right? Go to office hours. They really should be rebranded student hours, right? And speak with your faculty, right? Speak with your mentors, because if you are like, I want to kind of go in this general direction, there's going to be people in your area that know a lot about that area and might be able to connect you with someone else who is a subject matter expert or something like that. You really want to be reflective of get involved in research, identify internships, campus opportunities, different awards. Here are a ton of different databases to go through. I'll show you a couple more here in a second. And you really want to be selective of where are you spending your time, right? How are we developing while we're in university? Okay, so how does NISO help? We do info sessions, we talk about the scholarships, we help students apply for the Big 14. And the reason why the 14 exists is because students have to get a campus nomination to apply. So every campus across the United States and a lot of other international locations, like Rhodes, you have to go through a campus nomination process to have your papers go to Oxford, right? So that's what we do for the office and with those other 14. And then we do various workshops. So freshman year, sophomore year workshop where it's just like really digging in, what are your next steps? How can you keep moving through the university? CV writing workshops. A significant amount of our time is with one-on-one advising. So if you want to meet with me, I'm in Boiler Connect under Academic Success and Coaching. And that I spend 40 minutes chatting with you, identifying what is that big lofty goal, and then what are some baby steps to help you get to that thing. And sometimes there are programs that I know about that can be really helpful in helping you get there. Okay, so this is my boss. Her name is Veronica. She's the director of the National International Scholarships Office. And then this is me. And I'm a scholar development advisor. I primarily work with first and second year students on identifying what is scholarship, what does that look like, right? How do we develop it? And I'm gonna take just a couple of seconds and show the website real quick. So if you go to Google and you type in Purdue NISO, N-I-S-O, it'll come up with the National International Scholarships Office. And under major scholarships, you'll find the Big 14 that our office coordinates. But under additional opportunities, you will find the International Students section, along with undergrads, post-baccalaureate, graduate school, all other kinds of groupings. So under international students, And then, let me move that. And then through here, these are anything that one of my colleagues across the United States has sent me saying like, this is really good. I had a student that liked this workshop or liked this fellowship, whatever it is. Whenever they send that through the listserv, I will grab onto it and I will put it here. And so I try my best to make the funding purpose as short as I can, and the eligibility, I try to boil it down as best I can. Sometimes it's not 100% right. Sometimes they update the thing 3 years after I put it in here. And that means that there might be some errors, right? But there's a couple hundred, I would say, on this website. So one thing you can do is like do a control find function and type in your major or type in like keywords, right? Like computer science, right? This is a particularly good one. We've had a couple of Purdue students get this to help fund their undergraduate study while they're at Purdue. But there's all, yeah, so there's tons and tons of stuff in here, and it's kind of a little bit of a chore to kind of dig through and see what exists. But this is the best that we can really kind of help. There are some great programs also in the undergraduate section that international students can also apply to, because you have to be enrolled at a US institution. And I believe it, where is it? Yes, the DAD Research RISE. You have to be enrolled as a full-time student in the US, Canada, or the UK. So these are fully funded research internships in Germany. You do not need to know German to go and do one of these. And they're summer internships. And these are really, really good. It's fully funded by the German government. And I believe the Fulbright UK institutes also want, I think it's just if you have a attending a university in the United States. So I am going to show one more thing, sorry about this. Under develop your scholarly potential, we have this scholar development timeline and tips. I think that this PDF does help students. So it's broken down into first year, second year, third year, and kind of what you should be doing, right? How can you start really digging into where you are now, and how are you unpacking your time while you're at Purdue? Oh, I have some chat notifications. Okay, oh, I got a bunch of questions. Oh dear, okay. So I'm gonna go ahead and start answering question stuff and pop out of here real quick and stop sharing so that way I can see this. Okay, so, so the question is, what are some difficulties that applicants are struggling with to prepare for their documents? How have you been able to help them with these specific issues? Okay, so whenever students are struggling with their applications, one of the things that we really want to kind of dig into is, what does the foundation want, right? Like, what are they looking to fund? Are they wanting individuals to go on and work for their organization in the future, right? Are they wanting that? So then we really want to like dig into, what is that organization or what is that company that is going to be funding you, and how can you really play into what are they looking for? And so one of the biggest recommendations that I can have is get the exact prompt, right? So what is the prompt of the essay supposed to be, and then go through and write over it, right? Like number 1, number 2, number 3 on the different categories or different things that they're asking for, right? So if they want to know how you overcame a struggle while in university, and that can be financial, social, or academic, right? So then you would write a 1, and then it would be A, B, C, right? So pick one of those 3 things to make sure you talk about in this prompt. And then the next part of it is something related to incorporating others into a decision that you made, right? So first you have to talk about the decision, right? And then you also have to talk about who did you incorporate, right? So whenever I'm writing a prompt, sometimes they're like, 3 or 4 lines, I will physically break it up into numbers. And I think that usually helps. And then bring that exact prompt to the writing center, right? So you have your prompt, you have your essay, bringing it to the writing center and saying, this is my response to this prompt. Help me, right? They are really good over there, especially if you bring them the prompt. Like, I cannot stress this enough, bring the prompt. And there are multiple people over there who are absolutely amazing at helping. Did that kind of answer your question, Pam?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, and then the next question is, beyond the monetary benefit of a scholarship, can you share about other benefits as networking? Oh, yes, absolutely. I can't believe that I forgot to say that. Thank you so much for bringing this up. So scholarships, money, right? That's the first thing that we talk about. But the real benefit is being in a group of individuals that all have the same passion or care or whatever they're trying to do, right? So with Truman Scholars, right, they are all there and they're all ticked off, right? They're all angry about something in the world and they're trying to make the world a better place, right? So they're out there, they're making action, they're trying to change the world in various aspects, right? So they're all kind of all over the place in terms of what they're wanting to change, but being in a group or being in a room with 40 people who are leading whatever it is in their representative states or areas of the world is really empowering, right? And you kind of feed off of each other's emotions and energies and that kinds of stuff. But also Truman, in particular, Michaela identified that she wanted to be the chief statistical officer of the United States. And Truman found that individual and got a 1-hour appointment with her and the guy at the time in that position. So she had 1 hour of networking with the person she wants to be in 20 years, right? With the position she wants. And then also like with Rhodes Scholars, these are the top, some of the smartest people on earth, right? Being all combined together and working towards fighting the world's fight, right? What are the particular issues that you're focusing on trying to enact some sort of change? And the reason why I'm being very, very vague with all of the like trying to make the world a better place and that kinds of stuff is because whenever I give an example, I usually end up, or what usually happens is people start thinking that's what we're looking for. Like we want the next Michaela, or we want the next chief statistical officer of the United States to come into my office saying that's what they want to do. It's really, for most of the scholarships, it's how are you going out and changing, right? Or contributing to making society more resilient or protecting what already kind of exists if it's being threatened, right? Okay, and then the next question, how could an upperclassman utilize NISO in terms of preparation for their postgraduate plans beyond applying for scholarships? Okay, so for post-baccalaureate students, so I know it says besides applying for scholarships, but if you are wanting to apply for Fulbright, we will work with you as long as you don't have a master's degree from another institution. If you get a master's degree from Purdue, we will still work with you on Fulbright. So that was my including scholarships. And now the not including scholarships, our resume writing workshop is really great. We have 2 a year, one in the fall and one in the spring. I believe that it usually happens in February. It's early February, mid-February. It hasn't been planned yet for this year because we don't know with everybody coming in and out. So how So that's one really great thing. And then that timeline that I pointed out, going back and making and like filling in the gaps, right? So if you haven't talked to a faculty member yet, definitely go in. It's never too late to start those things, and it's also never too early to start those things. So if you're a first year student and you're like, oh, like that's a third year task, I'm going to wait until third year. No, don't do it. Go ahead and jump in there, right? And if you're a third year student or getting ready to graduate, going back and just being like, oh, you know, I never went to, you know, whatever the checkbox is. Let me go and do that. So I think that that is really great, just to kind of get a well-rounded experience. Yes. So the next question is, what would be the best timeline in the year for students to oops. What? Oh, wait, I'm so sorry. What would be the best timeline in the year for students to prep? Okay, so whenever we're working with scholarships, they each have different timelines, but most of them will be started in February. And then we will work on them through February, and then we will submit them first thing in August. So Rhodes, Marshall, Mitchell, Gates, Cambridge, Churchill, Fulbright, those 7 all start in February. And those are all looking for post-baccalaureate programs, right? So after you graduate university, going off and doing something else. Those are all for third-year students in February to apply to. And then in this time of year, in October, so in, what is this, fall? Yeah, in fall, it's Goldwater, Udall, Truman, Gilman, and I'm forgetting someone. But so they all kind of have different timelines, but the best way to prepare for applying for scholarships is to work early, right? So definitely, whatever year you are in university, going out and trying to advocate for something, right? How can something be better? How is there a group on campus that's being left out? Or is there something, so the first step is identifying that there's a problem, right? Or, you know, like there are so many things that humans just walk through their day-to-day existence not realizing that there's a problem, right? So first seeing it and then suggesting and implementing a change is the first step, right? So then once you start making the change, you can then start getting followers and start like, hey, did you know that this is a problem? Like food waste, right? So there are like tons and tons of food every day being carted off of Purdue's campus and going to a landfill to be just like in the landfill, it goes and makes methane, right? Which is a really bad greenhouse gas. Well, the waste treatment plant in Lafayette has a biodigester, right? So some of our students got together, started picking up all this food waste and took it over to the biodigester, right? So at maximum capabilities, that biodigester is going to power the wastewater treatment plant, right? So no fossil fuel will be consumed. And it's just like a win-win, right? So like no one knew that that was a problem and that there was also a resource just being underutilized. So that could be like one example. But the best timeline, what would be the best timeline in the year for students to prep? So I say always be preparing, right? Always just be like looking out for different kinds of things. And whenever you are going to be asking for a letter of recommendation, I encourage you to give your letter writer as much time as possible, right? So the bare minimum is 2 weeks usually, but I like to give my letter writers 6 weeks notice, right? So I go up to somebody and I'm like, hey, I'm going to be asking you, you know, for a letter of recommendation. It's not due until, you know, 6 weeks from now. I just wanted to give you some time, and because I know you're a very busy person, and I just wanted to put it on your radar, right? So do you think you could write me a strong letter of recommendation? And if they say yes, that's great. If they say no, I don't think I can write you a strong letter of recommendation, thank them, right? If they don't think that you can write you a strong letter and they are honest with you, thank them, and then find somebody else. Because the last thing you want your letter of recommendation to say is that you show up on time and you got an A in their class, right? You want that letter of recommendation to really show off who you are. And that comes from knowing the faculty members. So go to their office hours, talk with them, engage in class, all of those kinds of things to really start to develop a relationship with faculty, right? Because really strong letters come from good, solid relationships. Okay, so if you give them 6 weeks notice, for 4 weeks, they're not gonna do anything, right? That's just how professors are, right? And that's fine, but there's something magical that happens in their brain where they start looking at you in a different way, right? They start like, in the back of their head, they're like, I have to write a letter of recommendation. I have to write a letter of recommendation. I need to see things, right? So then they just start observing you, right? And then 2 weeks before the deadline, you send them a reminder saying, hey, you remember I asked you for that letter, I need it in 2 weeks. This is a friendly reminder, I just wanted to let you know, right? And then they're like, oh yeah, thank you for reminding me. And then they'll actually, they might do it or they might wait another week, right? But then the letters are usually stronger because they've had that 4 weeks of just witnessing you, right? And it's okay to like kick it up a little bit during those 4 weeks of like being like an extra great employee or an, you know, like extra hard, like going really good in the lab. So I think that answers that question. So the next question is, how do you see engagement in diversity and inclusion initiatives on campus, including being involved in cultural benefit applicants? Oh yes, so this definitely benefits applicants. So we've had quite a few students in the past come from cultural centers. We had our current Truman, I believe, has been involved with the cultural centers. We've had 2 Trumans in the past who have been made it to like finalist stage. And then, so, yes, absolutely. Students definitely involved in the cultural centers and cultural diversity and diversity and inclusion definitely have gone on to be scholars in various ways, particularly because there's so much at Purdue, right, that really needs to be changed, right? There's so many things that are really kind of an uphill battle, right? And so there's a lot of opportunities to start moving the pendulum, right? And so particularly with these groups of students, there's a lot of camaraderie, right? So it's like a lot of kindling, right? So somebody's like, hey, I have an idea, and that's the spark. And then you can get a lot of people to be like, hey, yeah, that's not right. Let's do something about it. And so for Truman in particular, it seems to be a really good forging or motivating component. Does that answer the question? Okay, does anyone else have questions? Was this helpful? Is this kind of what we're looking for? I just realized that like I spent like 43 minutes just like railroading this conversation.
Oh, this is really helpful.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I guess I have a question. So other than scholarships, there are other like leadership opportunities, like leadership initiatives that other like companies and organizations host. So it might not necessarily be like the main purpose of NISO, but would you all be able to like help like identify some of the key aspects of that organization for like a application process or something like that?
So the 14 scholarships that we work with take up all of our time and then some. I would suggest if a student is looking for demystifying that a little bit, absolutely set up a time to talk with me and we can try to like move through it, but I'm not well versed in all of that. My biggest advice would either be the CCO to kind of like unpack what is that kind of looking like, or going onto their website, and if they have a recruiter, calling them and being like, what exactly is this position? Like, I got this job description, what does that actually mean? And if you can get a hold of somebody, that's like the bee's knees, right? That is like really good, because then you can kind of get an idea of what are they actually looking for. Because like my job description is not necessarily what I do on the day-to-day, as we all know in this COVID time, right? That just because the job description says something doesn't mean that's actually what they're looking for. So with those kinds of positions that you were referencing, I think connecting with the CCO, because the companies are different beasts than what I've been in, right? And like our office is like really focused on academia and fellowships and the spirits of fellowships, right? Because they're all looking for something kind of specific, and it's not 100% clear on their website, right? Very much like with these companies, right? What they're looking for might be a little bit tangent to what their advertising they're looking for. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, because I wasn't thinking necessarily about job descriptions, but that also makes sense too.
And so, so do you have an example of one, right? Like a leadership?
Yeah. So like earlier in this year, I applied for like a leadership program hosted by a nonprofit, and it was like a like professional development type opportunity. So you would be part of like a fellowship, kind of a fellowship, I guess, like a cohort of people who are part of that program.
Interesting, yeah. So I would try to, the informational interview is like your biggest friend, right? Like being able to like identify somebody on LinkedIn or wherever that is in the organization that you're interested in, and asking them, right? Like for 20 minutes, 10, 20 minutes of their time to talk about their organization, and very specific, like give them some specifics of what you want to talk about. And then if they say no, water off your duck off the duck's what is it? Water off the duck's back. Like, who cares, right? You send out an email, right? You were nice, you were professional, and if they don't respond, then it's on them, right? And so just send out. A lot of times, like through LinkedIn, you can identify like who has worked at a company, but also who's gone to what university. So being at Purdue, there are thousands and thousands of students all over the place. Previous students, and you can sometimes pull people in by, hey, we went to the same university, like, and you work at this company, I'm interested in that. Can we like talk, you know, can we catch up for 10 minutes, 20 minutes? Can we talk about this? And sometimes that nostalgia of being a student kicks in, and they want to be like, yeah, I'll help this person out. Yeah, I used to be that person, I'll help them out. So I think that that could be possibly helpful. And also with nonprofits, everybody's got hats, right? They all wear multiple different hats in terms of they all do multiple different jobs, right? It's not like very distinct jobs. So whenever you call somebody or email somebody at that organization, they're probably gonna know a lot about a lot of different things. They might not be the person that handles it, but they probably know something about it. So I think that that might be helpful as well.
Yep, thank you.
Any other questions or elaboration needs? Okay, well, again, my name is Michael. Today was a little conversation about NISO, and which is the National International Scholarships Office. I know that on my slides, I should have said this earlier, my slides say Honors College on them, but you do not have to be in the Honors College, right? I work with all students across university. That's just where I sit and type in the middle of the day, right? It's just where my chair lives, right? So I work with everybody. So if you are interested and you want to learn more, definitely head to our website where you can learn more about the Big 14. And then also additional programs for after graduation, post-baccalaureate, international students, and students with disabilities. We have more lists for those groups of individuals as well. So thank you guys so much. I hope that this was helpful.
Thank you so much. So what we'll do is we will transcribe the interview, and then we will send you the transcript so that you will tell us, okay, just delete this part. So we will edit the interview that way. And
Okay.
after, we will post on our newsletter, which has many subscribers. And then also on social media, if that's okay with you.
Sure, absolutely, this would be great.
So yeah, so but we will send you what we have first so that you can, you know, tell us what the edits are.
Okay, yeah, because I started talking about a specific student, and I was like, whoopsie, I probably shouldn't have said that. But yeah, so thank you guys so much for doing all the editing work. That's a lot of lifting.
Yeah, thanks so much. Thanks so much for being here.
Yep, have a good rest of your night.
You too. Thank you.
Bye.